Hello, everybody, and welcome to Everything Paranormal with Mark and Jeff. I'm Mark.
I'm Jeff.
And we are in tune and ready to go with a great show tonight, folks.
F you, Skype.
Skype has been giving us a hard time since day one, since we switched over.
We beat it.
All right. Just digging this new music we had our friend make. That's nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Very exciting.
Oh, it's just like building the momentum.
We call it anticipation. Well, like you said, guys, we have a great show planned tonight. It's been a great long week, actually, and hope you guys all enjoyed the weekend. And the weekend's coming up real soon. Of course, you're going to hear us on DTMWickedRadio.com on the the
Yep.
Saturday nights,
9 to 11.
9 to 11. So what's new with you, Jeff? What's going on?
Oh, let's see. Crazy weekend at my reunion.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How'd that go? How many years?
30 years.
30 years.
Oh, my God, it was crazy. You know what, though?
What?
I even said it on Facebook. The people that I graduated with, it's like we all got along good. We had like freaking 400 people in there, and like everybody got along.
Right.
Good. It was a good time.
Yeah, so you had a good class.
A lot of yucks.
Yeah. So that's good. I'm glad to hear it. So is anybody really aged, for the...
Oh, yeah. They're the yucks.
Let's start. I was going to start with the better. Have the age for the better yet?
I felt good.
Yeah? Felt good about yourself?
Yeah, people were saying, oh, wow, you haven't even changed. And I'm like, you have.
Yeah. Of course you can. You got to be nice,
If
right?
you hit your prime in high school.
Yeah.
That sucks. No, actually, no. I'm just kidding. No, we had a good time. Got a little cold going right now, though. Sucks.
Yeah?
Yeah. Weather's changing.
From that wild partying you did?
I don't know. It was a crazy weekend.
Right.
I was working up in New Hampshire. Freaking came down on Saturday, changed and freaking shot right out. Crazy. I noticed one thing, though.
Wow.
Pitches get a lot worse as the night goes on. The pictures of me early I liked, and then as they started going on, I'm like, wow.
You mean like the more you celebrate,
You look a little fucked up in those pictures.
Hey.
Oh, sorry.
Right, it's a family show.
Messed up.
A little messed up. In the family picture.
Yeah.
It's a family show.
I had to, get rid of a few of them. I'm like, whoa. What's up with that?
Delete your post.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I saw a couple of your posts. Yeah. I was, I'm pleasantly surprised in some of the pictures. Holy crap. But anyway, that's what happens. We all get old, and some of us age good, and
some don't.
Some are like rotten potato.
Yeah.
And they just don't age well.
Some age like trash in the sun.
Trash in the sun. No more words of wisdom.
Yeah.
Speaking of words of wisdom, how's your, you started a video show, right?
Oh, video show.
Yeah. And what are we calling it?
Right now it's Universal Tips with Jeff, but I'm not. That's not ringing a bell for me yet. But it was a half hour. It's on 8:30 on Thursday nights, and my first one got a lot of hits. Our producer Denny said got over 1,000 hits as of Sunday. I haven't talked to him since, but
right. Well, that's the same producer who tells us we get like 250,000 listeners, and all we get is crickets. So, no, I believe him. I'm kidding. That isn't a lie. He's got like the people counter or something.
Yeah. What was that?
I don't know. What you hear?
I heard like a sound on the mic. You didn't hear that?
No.
Yeah,
place haunted?
It was probably me talking, Mark and Jeff. I was just...
Well, we might have our first guest.
Oh, we thought it was more paranormal activity.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show our author, Mr. John Fishwick. Hi, John.
How are you this evening, Mark and Jeff?
We're doing great.
Good, John.
Good.
How are you?
Well, I'm fine. You were talking a little earlier on your intro about aging.
Yeah.
Let me start you off with a little bit of a subject, nothing to do with the book I've written or even with the paranormal. But I just got back a few minutes back from a lady's 91st birthday.
Oh, wow.
And,
all right.
And she's a member of the British Car Club, Sports Car Club. She drives an MGA on rallies and goes 100 miles. She's into making stained glass windows. She used to ride horses. And the only reason I'm telling you all this is really for your listeners, that you never, if you let yourself grow old, that's what will happen. You'll grow old.
Exactly.
Because, in fact, when I talk at colleges and on cruise ships, I often tell my audiences my worst nightmare is to retire to an armchair.
That's right.
And I have a feeling that you guys aren't going to retire to an armchair either.
No, we're not. We are not. In fact, we had just discussed this whole subject
last week.
Yeah, last week.
Yeah.
So, John, tell our listeners about yourself.
Yeah, we were just talking about this last week. It's like, why retire? I mean, these people that they work till the day they retire. Then what do? Sit around and watch The Price is Right all day?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. We believe if you feel young and think young, you remain young. More youthful.
Just keep yourself busy and always learn and expand. I mean, there's no reason to just say, okay, my work life is done. I'm going to go sit on the,
I know.
12 o'clock noon comes a long way away when you're living like that.
This is true.
I know.
So, John, tell our listeners about yourself, please.
Well, as I mentioned to you in a previous email, feel free to interrupt me with a question or a comment at any time. You won't upset me in the least.
Okay.
I was raised
we're good
actually.
At that.
Okay. Yeah. I was raised in a place that some of your listeners may know about, others may not. It's called the Isle of Man. And the Isle of Man is an island in the middle of the Irish Sea. And that's where I was raised. And the interesting thing, particularly for your women listeners, Mark and Jeff, it was the first country in the world to give the vote to women. I think it was like 1870.
Okay.
So
wow, that's far back.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of history of the Isle of Man. But
that's far back for letting women vote. That's pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm actually a scientist by training. Geology, astronomy, physics, mathematics, that kind of thing. And one of the reasons I'm on the show this evening, and I don't want to push my book too hard because you have other things to get into, but several years ago I decided to write a technical book on astronomy, geology, and evolution. And I went to England and visited various astronomy sites, various geology sites, and various evolution sites. And I also went to Stonehenge, which has an interesting history on its own. And the reason I went was to search for the age-old question that you guys have probably asked yourself over the years, and I'm sure your listeners have. What's the purpose of this life? What's the meaning of it all? And I kind of thought, well, to start off finding a solution, we need to know something about astronomy, because this is the only universe we've got, something about geology, this is the planet on which we walk, and a little bit about evolution, because this is where we came from. We evolved ultimately from the primates. So I got about halfway through the book, and my first wife died, and I kind of lost interest in pursuing the technical book at that time. Then I was very lucky on meeting a wonderful lady from Chicago whose husband had died. And long story short, we got married, and we've been married now about 9 years. And she said, well, why don't you pick up the book where you left off? So I said, well, what I'm going to do is I am going to pick it up where I left off, but I'm going to make it into a novel. And I'm going to have the male protagonist, Jeremy Rowlands. He lost his wife to a car accident in Florida. He decides to go to England, again, to search for his the meaning of his life by going to these various astronomy, geology, and evolution sites like Darwin's home. And he gets on a plane going out of Newark, New Jersey, for London, England. Now, quite independent of this, there's a lady, Stephanie, who lives in Asheville, North Carolina, who lost her husband to cancer a few years ago. She's a retired English teacher. She taught the poets and the famous authors, and she's a lover of art. So she decides to go to England to visit the homes and sites of the poets and authors that she taught her kids in high school. Now, there's no prize for guessing what happens. They meet, by chance, sitting side by side on a plane going to London, England. And over the long night's journey, a few hours over the Atlantic, they got talking, and Stephanie finally says to Jeremy, well, where are you going on your first visit? And he says, well, I'm going to the Geological Museum in London because there's a sample there of the world's first geological map. And he said, actually, it's a work of art. It's what he calls informational art. Because I don't know if you've ever seen a geological map, but it's full of colors. One color for limestone, one color for granite, one color for clay, sandstone, and so on. So
yeah, like
said,
the old map. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's actually geological maps are wonderful thing. You can look at them for hours. But anyway, Stephanie says, you know, Jeremy, I'd like to have a look at that. So they decide to go together to the first venue to see the geological map, which they do. And then Stephanie says, well, now, my turn. I'd like to take you to the National Gallery in London, the Art Museum, to see the paintings of Turner and Constable and Manet and so on. So this gives them an opportunity to talk about art. And then they say, well, look, let's keep going. Let's join each other on our trip around England. And I'm going to call, my novel is called A Flight to Romance. And just to let you know my website, in case any of your listeners might be interested, the website is John-Fishwick, that's JOHN-FISHWICK.com. And it gives my bio, my background, the lectures I give, and so on. And it gives a nice synopsis of the book. So I'd like to go on, but if you have anything you want to ask at this point or any comments to make, feel free.
No, go right ahead.
No, you're doing great, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Now, after they've been to the National Gallery, they go to the radio telescopes at Cambridge University. This is a big array of big radio telescopes. And just in case your listeners don't know what a radio telescope is, you don't look through it like you do a normal telescope. You either send out or you receive radio signals from outer space. And one of the purposes of the radio telescopes is to listen for any signal that we might get from another civilization somewhere out in the galaxy. And if we get a signal, it would obviously have to be sent from a civilization much older than ours, that old enough to have developed the technology. And so let me just give you and your listeners a kind of an idea of what the chances are of finding aliens out there. There are estimated to be about 50 billion, with a B, 50 billion planets in our galaxy, roughly the same size as planet Earth. Now, if you start doing a little bit of elementary mathematics and say, well, let's supposing 50 billion, let's suppose 10% of them are in what we call the habitable zone. That is, not too cold, not too hot, just like Earth.
Yeah.
what we call the Goldilocks zone.
Just
and that's supposing that another 10% of those life formed. And another 10% of those it developed like ours did into intelligent life, Homo sapiens. Now, if you go through that, there are probably a few 100 million civilizations out there with people,
I believe that.
maybe like us, maybe not quite the same as us, aliens.
Right, but intelligent, nonetheless.
No, I definitely believe that.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, let me sidetrack you a little bit, because this comes back to whether we've been visited by aliens, and a lot of people think they've been abducted by aliens and even raped in spaceships. And then you got the Roswell incident in 1947. But let me back up a little bit. When we send people to the moon, we send men, or men and women. When we go to Mars, which we will do in maybe 10 or 20 years, we'll form a civilization on Mars. And we'll send people. And incidentally, and I'm going to sidetrack just a little bit here, we better start thinking now about a constitution for a civilization on Mars. We can't just send people. We'll have to pretend we're latter-day Thomas Jeffersons. And we're going to have to figure out, is it going to be a technocracy run by scientists? Are we going to allow religions to form on Mars that tend to fight each other? Are we going to allow pets or guns? You know, what are we going to have as a constitution up there? But anyway,
I know a few people I'd like to send to Mars.
Yeah, right now. But he has a good point. Great point.
Yeah.
Let them
anyway,
be the ones that test it out.
Yeah. So we might need people like you up there to form a little radio station. The first Martian radio station.
Coming to you live from Mars.
WMAR.
Yes, there you go. It's fabulous.
Cool. I like it.
But when we send people outside of our solar system, let's say that we're going to send them to the nearest star to look for a planet. The nearest star, other than our own sun, is a star cluster called Alpha Centauri. And it's like 4.5 light years from us, which means it takes light nearly 4.5 years to get there.
That's a long way. Yeah, it's a long way away.
How does that compare to us traveling, like light year? How long does it take us to travel a light year?
Well, good question. In fact, you're way ahead of me, Jeff or Mark.
Sorry.
But that's okay. But supposing we could travel at 10% the speed of light, which is very unlikely, but just for the sake of argument, it means we're going to take 40 years to get there and 40 years to get back.
Yeah.
And Alpha Centauri is nearby. There are many planets or stars we'd like to visit that may take a journey of 10,000 years. Now, you can see maybe where I'm leading to. We're not going to send people, because people need toilet facilities, they need food, they need to be psychologically trained for that kind of a trip, and they need to be shielded against radiation from the sun by a lead shield. So what we're going to do is we're going to send robots, because robots don't eat, they don't need toilet facilities, and so on. Now, what this means is other people, other civilizations have figured all this out too. So if we did have an incident, for instance, at Roswell, almost certainly they wouldn't be people like us. They wouldn't be hominids. They'd be robots. And you don't need them to be as big as we are. They would probably be like nanobots, small robots. So the question comes now, have we been visited in the past by nanobots from other planets? And the answer is we don't know. But there's no evidence that we found of people or limbs or alloys that are not like the ones on our own planet. So we haven't found any evidence yet, but there's still a possibility that either we have been visited but don't have any evidence, or we will be visited in the future. But
well, what do you
probably
think
not
about,
probably not by people, but by robots.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
what do you think of all these claims? People,
yeah, go ahead.
There's been thousands of claims throughout the years of people who have been visited or abducted or have witnessed alien spacecrafts.
Yeah, another thing is, too, how do we know that the way that they're visiting us is not through dimensions and through thought vibrations or something that, they're not even like, we're looking at it from the scientific, mechanical way.
Right.
They're looking at it from the mental, telepathic way,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, if the civilization that we finally hear from might be 1 million years older than we are, they'll be able to do things that we can't even conceive as being possible.
Yeah,
they might be able to make that. They might be able to make their own planets, or even make their own stars, because a star is just a bunch of hydrogen brought together until it fuses.
Or they can make huge advancements in space travel, and that 40-year trip could take.
I think
weeks.
It's heading that way because like I said earlier, this is a vibrational universe, and our thoughts are vibrations. I mean, they probably on a different frequency where they're using their thoughts to manifest worlds, like you said.
Right.
Yes.
They have no doubt that they can do it. Like we have doubts because we, in
We're
our
limited,
society,
right?
Seeing is believing, but it's actually believing is seeing, and they've probably mastered that after so many years.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of interesting because on a long journey taking thousands of years, just like your computer, you can put your computer in the sleep mode.
Right.
Robots will be able to do the same thing. They can just turn them off and be in sleep mode for a couple of thousand years.
Yeah.
Whereas we, as individuals, can't do that, but robots can.
Maybe another thing that we're doing, too, is we're looking at time as our greatest enemy here, whereas they have no concept of time.
We're mortal, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
we have limited time.
Yeah, I mean, the physical body, there's no evidence on why it should actually die. I mean, it's like your cells and everything is regenerated every 2 years.
Yes.
So there's no evidence why we should die, and then maybe they're beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be smart enough to improve themselves. So this is kind of their evolution. They'll be able to develop even smarter robots.
Oh yeah.
But the kind of a scary thing, and I'm going to throw this open, and if any of your listeners are intrigued by this, maybe they can call you and offer their opinions. But there's something called a singularity, and it's been written by several people who look at the future. And what a singularity is, and some people think this is going to come in the next 50 years. A singularity is when we have developed artificial intelligence smarter than we are.
Like the Matrix.
Yeah.
And the movie The Matrix?
In fact, yeah, I did see it, but I've heard people talk about it.
Yeah,
but
that's what it's all about.
Okay. Is it? Yeah. But what could realistically happen? Yeah. What could realistically happen is we, as human beings, could be replaced by robots. To give you an idea of how smart these are, and I don't remember the exact figures, but I'll come up pretty close. If you're playing chess, let's say you and Jeff play chess with each other.
Right.
You can probably think something like 3 or 4 moves ahead, right?
Yeah.
So in the space of a few seconds, you're capable of doing 3 or 4 or 5 quick calculations. A computer can do something like 4 trillion calculations in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Goodness, it's incredible.
Yeah, well, look at Google search. When you press Google search, it comes up with, within seconds, 52 million
Well, the new police,
options.
the new police scanners, they have them back at the car at the side of the road and run hundreds and hundreds of plates a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No.
So,
yeah, it's true. It's amazing.
Sometime down the road, we're not going to be needed. Homo sapiens, people like us, will become extinct, and we'll be populated by intelligent robots. And there's certain
just the people who maintain them and just right. I mean,
not even.
They need some humans.
We'll be glued.
Oh God. Yeah,
well, all a robot would need is a very small amount of electricity, just like we need power to run the computer. But a little bit of plutonium could supply that.
Well, where do you think they'll get their electricity from? Our bodies, because our bodies are both electricity.
Actually, they'll get it from nuclear, from plutonium.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is kind of wild speculation, but I think realistic. I think it's real. Now, let me get back to.
It could happen.
Could be. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Let me get back to your subject just a little bit for a couple of minutes, like the paranormal, like ESP and psychokinesis and telepathy. Being a scientist, I tend to say, well, is it plausible, and where's the evidence? And I'm what I call a skeptic on these subjects. However, a good skeptic is prepared to accept new evidence that he doesn't currently have and change his mind.
So you're open-minded.
Oh, yeah. Any skeptic that closes his mind and said, it's not possible, that's it, is not a true skeptic.
Yeah.
Because, can I ask you this?
No, that's just, that's...
I have a great question for you, John. Me being, Jeff is on our paranormal investigating team. Jeff is more the spiritual guy, and I am more of he's a spiritual advisor. I'm more of the technical person, the guy with all the equipment, the FLIR cameras, infrared cameras, thermal imaging. We do voice recordings. Sometime we have a new thing called the Ghost Box, which is actually an FM radio, scans backwards, like 4 stations per second, so it provides white noise for a spirit who wouldn't otherwise have a way to communicate, or vocal cords. But from the way I've been taught and the way a lot of investigators in this field think, we take I'm doing the air quotes, the scientific approach to meter readings, a fluctuation in electromagnetic fields, or
trying to figure out
thermal cameras and things like that.
With the electricity in the house.
As a scientist, you don't even recognize any of this stuff for paranormal investigating, correct?
Well, no. Except, let me be fair on this. Let me be open-minded and fair. Right now, I don't think there's any credible evidence that's been published in a respectable magazine that shows that we have telepathic powers. However, there's a lot of work being done in psychology on brain chemistry, and I'm quite prepared to believe that sometime in the future we will develop our brains to the point that we can send and receive signals from other brains. I haven't seen it happen yet, but I'm quite prepared to believe it's possible.
Well, you got to think too. I mean, we're only using at best 10% of our brain. So I mean, what's the rest of it doing?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So I mean, there's got to be areas in there that tap. I mean, the same way that, like you were saying, these aliens that are so much superior than us, which they probably are going to be.
So far advanced, right?
They just tap further into their different parts of their brain, and it's just natural.
But consider this: physically, their brains are different. They're aliens. They're not built like humans. The brain's probably different.
Maybe everything's all connected. We're even connected to them somehow.
It could be. It could be.
Right on the same energy.
Yeah. To actually put this in a kind of perspective, I want you to imagine that Isaac Newton, back in the 17th century, arguably the smartest man who ever lived, if you could transport him to today's world and you could show him Earth satellites with GPS systems and iPads and iPhones, you'd actually blow his mind.
Word for word, I was just going to say that. You would blow his mind. He'd be like, "Oh my God, look at this."
So the same thing could happen to us if we could work some kind of a time travel out and have people come back from 500 years in the future. They would tell us things that we have no comprehension of at all.
Right.
Yep.
So, just before we go on a little bit, when you go on one of your paranormal trips, just walk me through a little bit. You take the equipment out. Do you normally have visitors come with you?
No.
Sometimes
we do. Well, sometimes, but we
do a lot. Just me and Mark, and we have like a few trusted other people.
All right. Yeah, let's explain. So briefly, what we do is we get contacted from somebody. They either see apparitions or things are being moved, or the cold spots, or voices. They might hear disembodied voices. They get things in family photos, like a family member who's not there any longer, stuff like that. So anyway, step number one is we would go and interview the people and ask 20 questions. Seriously, things like, are you on any prescription drugs? Do you use them recreational, or what else shall we ask?
We check the electrical to make sure there's no high EMFs.
Well, that's the second thing. So after we interview these 20 questions, just to see if it's worth our time, and then we'll do a sweep of the place. And we do a sweep of the place with the electromagnetic meter, EMF, electromagnetic field meter.
Yeah, we check temperature.
Ours is a mel meter, which measures in milligauss. Okay. And we'll go around. We kind of do a sweep of the house with the lights on before us. We're just walking through. We'll find high electromagnetic field readings sometime near, main boxes, power boxes, things like that, right? Lights, microwaves, stoves. Okay, because in our theory, that can either, number one, fuel your imagination, especially if you're having high EMF level near your pillow at night when you're sleeping, and you're seeing ghosts at night. Well, you know what? You may be imagining this, or you could even be conjuring it up. In our
causes hallucinate. Steve sent us that article on that. How people.
You can conjure it up.
Yeah, it causes sleep paralysis. It causes
Well, now in this process, you must find a certain percentage of the time people who have a hoax. They're trying to fool you.
Oh yeah, I think so.
We kind of cut them off before we see them.
That's what the whole interview thing. Yeah, that's kind of why we're interviewing. What did you really see? We'll interview family members separately. What did you see? What did you experience? And things like that. I think so.
When I go to something too, I can feel if there is energy like going on in there.
As well as I can. The longer I've been doing this, I can start to feel it too. You can definitely.
If we walk around and we feel some different energy, then we know it's worth staying, whether they're telling us the truth or not. And
I know it sounds stereotypical, but it's almost like the hair standing up in your arms. You can see it. We videotape it. It comes right up. Or,
you can feel heaviness in certain rooms, and lightness,
sadness, or
Well,
and it's also like spiritual presence.
It is kind of interesting because I read a lot of psychology magazines, And and every so often there's an article about, let's say that you, Mark, are sitting at your computer doing some stuff, and Jeff comes quietly into the door just behind you and stares at you.
I would sense
there are
him.
some
That's
people
what
who say
tell you.
They feel after a while that they have to turn around.
Yeah, exactly. That was what I was going to compare it to when I was telling you, John. Yeah, you can when we can feel a spirit in the room, not all the time, but a lot of times it just feels like there's another person in the room. You can feel the presence.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Some stronger than others.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And you know what, John? What we'll do is we'll keep on this path, not knowing that we haven't convinced scientists yet, but someday we might. We might come up with that thing that's unconceivable.
I think we live
nobody can deny.
Yeah, we live for that.
You know,
but then
we'll
what,
just keep doing it. We like doing it. We get to play with scientific stuff too.
Yeah, and we help families.
Great.
We help feel better. We try to.
Yeah, I mean, even
we jig up history on the house or the things like we. Yeah. There's a lot of research that goes into. Yeah. We try to help people out.
I mean, we see your point too, because there's no cut or dry evidence.
Well, there's no scientific proof.
Yeah.
There really isn't. Although, John, I have some fantastic thermal imaging camera pictures or even some great audios.
Yeah, on your website you have them.
Yep, they're on my website. And also on the, we have some good audio, too. When you get whispers that say clearly, help. Or I do tours. We live in Salem, Massachusetts, the Halloween capital of the world. So, of course, what I do to fund my equipment with it.
Yeah. I think that goes back to, 1640 or something?
16 for what?
1647. Was that the Salem witch hunt?
No, that was 1629.
Is that what it was? 1629. Okay. Now,
right when they came over.
I live right in that area.
Yeah. Let me change the subject completely on you, if you don't mind.
Okay, and we like it.
In my book, A Flight to Romance, which incidentally is available on Amazon and Kindle, all you got to do is go to Amazon and type in John Fishwick or A Flight to Romance. But one of the sites I go to is a wind farm in the northern part of England. And this leads to a discussion of energy sources that we're going to use in the United States in the future. And on your program, have you ever talked about energy sources with any of your guests or between the two of you?
Oh, yeah.
Because,
we touched base with that,
because there's a lot of nonsense talked about our future. And a lot of nonsense is talked by people in Washington.
Well, I believe that.
A lot of people believe it. But let me kind of put things into perspective just a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm talking about renewable energy like solar and wind. Many people, including the President of the United States, in fact, Obama said in 2011, we can break our dependence on oil with biofuels. Okay? Now, all these comments you hear are quite frankly lies. Let me put it into perspective. Supposing, and I'm going to get a bit technical here, supposing you're going to build a plant to make 1,000 megawatts of power, 1,000 megawatts of electricity. If you're going to build that plant using fossil fuels like oil, coal, or gas, the size of the plant is going to be about a few acres. If you're going to build that same 1,000 megawatt plant with solar or wind, it's going to occupy 400 square miles. Now, it's worth having your listeners think about that. Because where's the land coming from?
Good question. Yeah.
In fact, just to put it a little more into perspective for your listeners, Germany has probably more installed solar energy than any other country. It has about 33,000 megawatts of solar energy. And to keep pace with the growth in global energy demand, the world would have to install 16 times as much photovoltaic capacity as Germany has now, and it would have to do that every year. So it's only when you put this into perspective, you know that renewable energy like wind and solar is a pipe dream. It's not going to replace coal, oil, or gas. In fact, coal, as I'm sure you know, fueled the Industrial Revolution in the West. Without coal, without burning coal, we wouldn't be a rich country like we are today. And so when we try and tell India and China to stop burning coal, they're saying, well, look, you guys got rich by burning coal. Now we want to get rich. Okay?
All right, yeah.
There you go. Everybody deserves to be rich.
It's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah. And 25% of the people in India, 25% don't have electricity.
That's crazy.
So, you know and I know, regardless of what policy we have in this country, India and China are going to burn coal for decades to come.
Well, it's losing the earth. Burning coal is bad.
Yeah, and I mean that's the way it is. And
we live near a coal-burning power plant.
Yeah, for people to claim that in 20 years or something we'll get most of our power from solar and wind, I just don't know what they're talking about. It's just not true. And yet, the policy we have, we're spending tens of millions of taxpayers' money on solar and wind. And first of all, you use it where you can, but it's going to cost 2 or 3 times what the cost of generating electricity with natural gas or with oil.
Johnny, you know it's also interesting. It's right in our neighborhood. I look out the window from our studio here. About a couple hundred yards down the street, we have a coal-burning plant, power plant, right down the street here.
Yes.
Yep.
And they are talking about switching over, but they are still debating as to what they're going to switch over to.
Yeah. But they're going to switch.
Yeah. I think it was more like hydropower. It's on the ocean.
Yeah.
I thought it was hydro.
Yeah, I mean, they are right on the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting you say that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you see, if you follow the following kind of logic or reasoning, supposing you don't want to use fossil fuels, coal, oil, or gas, because when you burn them, they produce carbon dioxide. And you can't use much renewable energy like wind or solar for the reasons we've just talked about. What have you got left? You've got left nuclear. And nuclear scares a lot of people.
Well, yeah.
But
it could be dangerous.
Them. Yeah,
we get a nuclear plant too.
Yeah.
In Seabrook.
30 miles away. Yeah.
Yeah, we're dead.
So we're fried no matter what.
Yeah.
But
we're going to be living like on The Living Dead.
Yeah. But it scares them because they don't know the facts. The worst nuclear accident in our country, in the States, was 3 Mile Island. You know how many people died in 3 Mile Island?
2.
0.
No. Oh,
yeah,
0?
see, I was close.
Oh, really? Wow. Wow.
Nobody
Why did
died.
I think there was a lot?
Yeah, nobody died.
I'm guessing too.
Remember the famous one a couple of years ago, Fukushima in Japan, which scared everybody?
Yes. Yeah.
When they went into the reactor site, they found 2 dead people, and they drowned.
Wow, they drowned.
The people who died in Fukushima in Japan died because of the tidal wave, the big tsunami, not because of radiation. And if you ask most people, I'll be interested if ever your listeners call in with their opinions. I'd like you to give me a call and let me know what they say, because remember, the worst accident we've ever had in the world is Chernobyl in Russia. Ukraine.
Yeah. Right.
And I've heard activists going around saying millions of people in Europe died. Millions. You know how many died? 50.
0.
50. But in the same complex, 3 other nuclear reactors continued to generate electricity for several years. And shortly after the accident, locals, who was their home, moved back in, families with father, mother, children, pets, moved back into the area with no evidence since then of any cancer being produced. So, what I'm really saying,
more cancer than that.
Well, right. In this neighborhood alone, there's lots of rare documented cases of rare types of cancer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we kind of lived around here most of our lives in this general area.
We're not close to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
But what you have to compare it to is what is the normal number of cancers in the area? Because, and I'm just going to pick a number. If the normal deaths from cancer in any particular area is, let's say, 100 per year, and you still get 100 per year, that was what you'd expect from other sources. But if you follow the logic, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, either Jeff or Mark, is nuclear energy is very, very clean. It gives no carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It produces no ash. In fact, let me give you a kind of a quick example, and then you can comment on it if you would. I'm going to talk about Omaha, Nebraska. In the North Omaha power plant, the North Omaha power plant receives a 110-car unit train every 3 days, loaded with about 125 tons of coal in each car. One car produces 20 minutes of electricity. Okay?
Yeah.
About 30 miles south of Omaha is a nuclear power plant. Every 18 months, they get a single tractor trailer carrying several dozen bundles of 18-foot fuel rods. The nuclear plant produces no sulfur emissions, no mercury, no particulate matter, no ash, no slag, no greenhouse gases.
But
it
what
does
is
produce
their waste? They produce a hazardous waste, correct?
That's a good question. In fact, the latest nuclear power plants, what we call breeder plants, you actually put the waste back in as more fuel, because the breeder plants produce plutonium, which used to be a waste, and now it can be reprocessed and reburned. So there's virtually no waste at all from the modern nuclear power plants. And any waste there is can be safely encapsulated in glass and then in metal. So the answer, as I see it, the future
I have a bit
for
of
us,
an audio situation here.
Skype.
It's not all Skype.
Freaking Skype.
John, can you still hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. But I'd be interested if any of your listeners call in with opinions about nuclear energy, and I'd kind of like you to let me know the information. If they're scared of nuclear energy, why? Is it the word radiation that scares them, or what? But if you're worried about climate change, nuclear is the way to go. But anyway, we've talked about aliens, we've talked about power, we talked about energy sources. What else would you like to talk about? You still there? Yeah, I've lost you, I think. Hello? Hello, John? Hello?
Damn you, Skype.
No, we're having Skype issues again. But hopefully it's time for our wicked weather report.
You know how he was just saying that computers are taking over the world?
Yeah.
Our computer says, all right, it's in between hours, time for you to take a break, and it just shuts off every time at this time.
Yeah.
Fucking Skype. See, that's it. I'm going to just go live on a freaking island. No computers, nothing.
Better off.
Nice native girl.
Oh, yeah. Native is lovely.
All right, so we're back.
Are we back live?
I don't know.
Peter Lavasco, are you there, Pete? Guess silence is not good.
No, that's not a quick... Hey! You hear him?
Hey, that Peter?
This is Shaman Rye.
Oh.
Hi, Shaman. Okay. That's we're probably gonna have to go with that next guest, Jeff, because we lost.
We got to roll
with the punches. Sorry, Shaman. We had a little glitch there, and we lost our weatherman. I don't know what happened. Maybe some weather overcame him.
Well, I have a weather report. The weather is cold and getting colder. That's the weather report up here.
It is?
Summer flew by.
Summer flew by quick. All right, Shaman Rai, welcome to the show. How are you, sir? Welcome to Everything Paranormal with Mark and Jeff.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you. Great to be here, and looking forward to whatever's ahead of us for the next period of time.
So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, basically, I'm a psychic, a medium, a medical intuitive, and a healer. I'm able to. By the way, I have a lot of feedback on the phone. I don't know if that's coming through the system or just my phone.
You hear? Yeah, we're not. I'm not getting feedback here.
No, yeah, no, you sound fine here.
We were having issues though, but I don't hear feedback live.
Okay. Well, anyway, so I'm basically able to tune into a person and see what's going on either in their life or in their body. I hear words that communicate about them. I feel things in my body, if they have issues there, or I can see right into their body and see what's going on. I can see into their past, their present, or the future. Basically, the information just comes to me, whatever the issue is, and it comes in very, very clearly. And also I'm able to communicate with those which I think is the most interesting part for you, communicate with those who are on the other side, and very often they'll come over and identify themselves by something that is recognizable to the person I'm working with. But also, besides all of that, I also have communicated with those, our star brothers and sisters, and had been visited by them when I was young and over a period of time. But when I go into meditation, I can also communicate with them and be on the starships. So there's a whole slew of things that basically my consciousness can address in any way. It can move to any direction that the person needs or whatever information they want.
I got a question for you, Shaman.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Where I live, I can feel, things too, and where I live, it's I feel that there's a spirits of a Native American tribe that is there on the outside in the land. And I've seen the shadow of like a black cougar, and when I go out there, I feel that there's one. He might be the shaman of this group. He kind of goes with me, and he kind of walks me around in there. Like the other night, I mean, it's not always like that, though, because the other night when I came home, I felt uncomfortable, like they were doing like a ceremony or something, and they kind of wanted to be by themselves, so the woods felt real, like, all right, don't come in tonight, and so I just went in the house. But it's not, that was like the first time it felt like that, but that's what it felt like to me, like they were doing like some type of a ceremony.
Well, it could be. First of all, when I've gone to places where, the Trail of Tears. There's a place down. I'm in Arkansas, and there's a place, and a number of Native Americans came through both Eureka Springs, where I live, and south of there. Most people may know Hot Springs and that kind of area. And what I saw, and what others saw on this property that we were on, is that there tended to be a couple of very tall guards who protected the area, and only if we were, acceptable to them did they let us come in. And we didn't find them doing ceremony as much as, just living. That was our experience. They were just, they were just there, and not committing some kind of ceremony. Now, you may have experienced that, but I have a feeling. I think you said you felt a block that you shouldn't be there. In all likelihood, right. Those were the guardians that were standing on the property to keep you off. Now, as you were talking, I saw the black cat that you were talking about, and I'm told that black cat is a shaman that in form, and and so. That may just be I'm not getting a sense that it was an actual ceremony that was going on. What I'm getting is that there were certain energies.
Yeah, because basically I might have read that wrong. I just felt like it wasn't a night for me to go in there. They said, no, leave us alone tonight for some reason.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting, the energies.
Yeah, but there's other nights where I get invited in all the time, and what I did when I moved there, 4th of July, it was pouring, and it was just, it was just downpours. Everything got canceled, and when I first moved to this place, it was like the weekend before, and they had this cable that was around a tree, and it grew into the tree. So it just bugged me so much. I went out in the pouring rain with my tin snip. That's all I had, and it took me like 20 minutes to cut this cable off, so I pulled it off. And the next day, there's a heart on the tree, and it's been there ever since. That's when I felt like everything kind of opened up for me there. You've seen the heart on my tree. Still there now.
Yeah, in the bark, right?
This is July 4th, and it's still there.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. You saved a soul by doing that. You kept it from being further damaged as a result of that. They saw that you really cared about nature, and that is their, Native Americans, that's their number one. They know we're all one and one with the earth, and the earth takes care of us. So, you touched into the most important aspect. Let me ask you: was there a burial ground? Was there a burial ground there?
No, but it kind of feels to me like if I can kind of like go back, it seems like the perfect place where there would be a camp, because you're close to the ocean. It's in Beverly, Mass, which is right near the ocean, so it's within a half mile from the ocean. It's got the fields around it, and there's fresh water another like half mile the other way. So it's just like a perfect place. There's shelter from the wind, and you're not like right on the ocean. So it just feels like a place where there's energy that's left there. Is that Pete?
Oh, wait a minute. I think
Hello? Is that our weatherman?
Shaman Ray, hold on a second. Is this Pete Lovasco, our wicked weather guy?
What's going on, Mark and Jeff?
Hi, Pete.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I don't know. I've been in queue for like 25 minutes.
Poor guy, you've been on hold. Say hello to our guest, Shaman Rai. Hello, say hi, Shaman.
Hi, Shaman. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I could hear a little bit of the show. The last I heard of the show, guys, was Fukushima, nuclear, people drowning, not because of the tsunamis. I don't like to get into all that crap. So who really cares? I mean, nuclear is like everybody's worst nightmare, so we don't even want to think about that stuff. But it was a good guest. I got to listen for about 10, 15 minutes. I just got back from Dunkin' Donuts. But if you guys want, I'll give you a quick weather report, and then you get to your guest.
All right,
cool. Yeah, go ahead, Shaman. If you just give us 2 minutes. He was kind of out in limbo for a couple of minutes. Well, for about 20. He's just going to say his thing, and then we're going to let him go.
Yeah, do our weather report.
Go ahead,
right.
Pete Lovasco.
One, two, three.
What's that?
All right, Mark and Jeff and Shaman listening. Here's the forecast, guys. We're going to have a cool night for the next few nights. Actually, tonight we're going to be dropping down to the upper 30s over the interior, northwestern Massachusetts, southern New Hampshire. Mid to upper 40s across the interior, and right around the coastline, we're looking at about 45 to 51 for a low. So, yeah, it's going to be chilly. If you guys are downtown, have your sweatshirts on, sweaters. Folks that are coming out for the Halloween festivities that will be starting out, guys, in another week or so, right?
October 1st. Haunted Happenings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to have to make a trip up there to be with you guys because that would be really cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We'll do it live.
Yep.
Absolutely. Let's do it. And Wednesday, guys, we're looking at mostly sunny skies, temperatures will be in the 60s, and we're watching a coastal storm for Thursday, whether or not that high pressure stays strong over New England and allows the cutoff low to enforce and energize the coastal low off the coastline to give us gale force winds and heavy rain. That remains to be seen. I'll know more tomorrow afternoon. But right now I'd say 50-50 that we're going to get some pretty good rains here Thursday and Thursday night. And much needed because we're in a big drought up here.
Much.
Yeah,
very much.
Bring it on. I don't mind a rainy day.
Hey, I have one question for you. How does our winter look what do you think about the winter this year? What's coming up?
I'm still looking at either very cold and snowy or very cold and dry. Either way, it's going to go down cold, folks. Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Jeff. But that's all the data that we're seeing is still suggesting cold weather. So, yeah, it'll be colder than last year.
What have we done to our world, Peter?
Yeah, we've ruined it. All right, Peter Lovasco, thank you so much. We're going to have you on next week, and we'll even get you on time. We promise.
Guys,
all right,
have
man?
a good night.
All right, the Wicked Weather Guy. He's also on DTMWickedRadio.com. He's got his own show. It's called Wicked Weather with Peter Lovasco. Thanks, Pete. All right, Shaman Rai, I'm sorry about that. The poor guy was in limbo for about 25 minutes.
We live in New England. The weather's important.
It is. Yeah, that's all we talk about.
It changes every minute.
I wanted to come back to those Native Americans because what I'm doing is I'm asking questions about them. And first of all, there are Native Americans buried on that property. And it's really, and
if it is, I know exactly where it is.
They did not die from massacre or anything like that. There was nothing hostile that took place, but they naturally died and were buried there. And those are just that's all that's there. It's a very peaceful feeling that I get, and everything is okay. But did somebody try and build on that property where the Native Americans may have been buried? Or is your house good?
Yeah, they had built about 10 houses there.
Yeah, they built it was a little like a condo community type thing, right? A bunch of little houses there.
Yeah.
Along with
condos into all the houses.
Well, they were. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, they were nice. They were nice homes, and also one of the first homes was a mansion there back when it was back when it was property of can I say the college?
Well, what they had.
It was a college here in New England.
What they had, was they had a mansion, and they had the house I'm staying in, which is like a mini mansion.
Yeah.
And And then over right where there's a big foundation of this, there was this beautiful estate. I mean, they came and took the molding from this place, and then they got like $60,000 just for the crown molding. That's how beautiful this place was.
Well done, yeah.
They took that down, and the rest was all woods, which was where the burial ground would be, because that's where I feel the most energy. And that all got leveled and turned into $1 million houses. There's like a whole cul-de-sac going around there now.
Mm. Yeah. So these souls were disturbed. It's a holy space where they are, and their souls were disturbed by these houses that were placed over them. And really, one of the things that you can do is, this is something that was done here in Eureka. We had many souls that were stuck here, and also in South Arkansas, is help them go to the light. Now, I don't know if it's possible. Have you? Okay.
Yep.
That's great.
I had 4 workers that were in this house that I was in, and I crossed them all. And then we had another guy on, and he goes, they came to you because they say, like, you help people or something. So I passed them on. It was kind of had a funny, weird feeling. So then these other ones now, they've been kind of like coming in and out, and, you know, it's after a day or two, some want to go, some don't.
Mhm. Yeah. So that would be how. Part of the reason may not be able to go, is when they passed, they had a certain level of vibration, and the Earth has been, especially now, the Earth's vibration frequency has been rising, and so they may not be able to achieve the vibration that they need to get up through the Earth and return to the light and to the source. So
like a magnetic pull.
Yep, exactly. So that may be why they're stuck there, and they're kind of stuck in limbo as a result of that, and they've been disturbed. Now, fortunately, it doesn't sound like they're too angry most of the time, but you know, they are there, and it's great that you were able to help some of them be released from the Earth.
Do they feel like space and time, you know, like time like we do, or is just, you know, how do they think like that? Do you have any ideas?
They don't think in terms of time. It doesn't mean anything to them. And for them, there's a kind of sometimes there's a confusion for them because they are not in body, and yet at times they can see the Earth and parts of the Earth very, very clearly. At other times they can't. And so, you know, they're like in their own little world there, but every now and then they're able to look in to the and feel the people and the energies that are there or be attracted by them. But, you know, it's confusing for them because it's not the way that it was at that time. So when they come in and see what's going on, and a lot of the reason that happens, I believe, can be associated with when they passed, the energies from the moon and the sun and the other planets that are affecting them. That's what I have here in the house. In fact, we moved into this house, and right away we felt energies of various types. One night we were lying in bed, and we felt something go right across our covers. The covers actually moved. And then one time we were lying in bed and something went across our neck. Well, what I did was I asked to see who it was and what it was. And one time it was a young child, and I sent him to the light, and standing behind him was his father, and I knew that he was encouraging me to send the boy to the light. And he didn't come back anymore. But there are others. We had my partner. She saw some lights from the corner of her eyes the last 4 days, and her first husband. It was around the day that he passed, and her son had been having experience of seeing him. So we didn't do anything to send him away, but you know that, and also there was her second husband. I mean, he came and visited. He came to me and he sent me a message to give to her, and it was around the time that he had passed. So very often I see this cycle taking place where souls reconnect with the earth in some kind of relationship to when they actually departed. Did I lose you?
Nope. I still hear you. I'm sorry.
Shaman, do you have a website?
Yes, I do. It's shamanrai.com. That's ShamanRai.com.
Cool. What will they find there?
Well, he's I've checked out I've done my homework, and he writes several articles on a variety of topics. You want to go through a couple, Shaman, and explain them to us?
Yeah, well, let's talk about this topic about, people on the other side.
Okay.
What I have found over time is that, let's say I'm working with a client. I remember this one person, and we've been doing work, and then she wanted to communicate with her father. Well, her father all of a sudden appeared to me as a man who was sitting by a river with a hat on, and he was fishing. And I described the scene to her, and she said that's exactly what he used to do as a young man. So we knew that we had connected with her father, and then, among other things, they sent love to each other, and then he left. So I found that very often that when I'm working with somebody, the person being on the other side will provide that kind of symbol, so there's that connection and recognition. Now, another case was a man had lost his daughter during the prior year, and he wanted to test me. We were already communicating with his daughter, and he wanted to see whether or not I was accurate or not. So he asked me, well, how did she die? And what happened was that she showed me the right side of her head, and I described that to him. I said, well, she was in a car accident, and she banged her head, and then she showed me her right hip. And I said, and that was the other part also. And he said, exactly right. What happened was that she died because the blood flowed from her femur, and that's what ultimately killed her. But then we can communicate, on, and the communications are very, very clear and personal to the person. So those are two key things, is that the other side can communicate and make themselves recognizable, so that to the degree that the other person needs to know. Now, one funny thing was that I did a session one time, and the gal wanted her mother to communicate through me with the father, and the mother was a total skeptic. And I just find, whenever somebody's a skeptic, they're resistant and they're blocking energy. Well,
right.
I don't remember the exact details, but say again?
They should be open-minded. It's okay to be skeptical, but you should still be open-minded, and
exactly.
That helps the overall energy, I think, for the whole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be open-minded to any outcome.
Yeah, you do. Okay, go ahead.
But she wasn't, and she was actually resistant to coming to this session. But anyway, I would provide her information that the father was saying from the other side, and she would, poo-poo it. She'd negate it. She'd say it's not true. And he just got annoyed on the other side with her, and basically made a few comments to her about how belligerent she was being, or not in those words, So they really understand and feel, when they make that connection, they understand and feel what the humans are thinking about that they're connecting with. And, I'll have to tell you this fascinating one. My father passed about 3 years ago, and I was called up to be with him to help him transition. And before he transitioned, one day he went into, a deep sleep or whatever, and he woke up and he said, "You won't believe this, but they know exactly when I'm going to pass. They know exactly when." And they showed me everybody who was going to be there. I saw this man in black, and I saw all the people there, And then finally, and finally he gave up the body, and we went to the funeral, and we were at the casket, my brother on one side of my mother and me on the other, and all of a sudden I feel a breeze come across, and I look up to my right, and there's my father watching the whole thing. And my sister-in-law, who stood behind me, she didn't see him, but she was going, "Did you feel that cold breeze that came across all of a sudden?" I said, "Yes, it was Dad." So they know, they see that, our soul sees time is not meaningful, and so we can see the future, we can see when we're going to pass and what's going to take place, and we're literally, and I've heard many people say this, they've seen their relative there at the funeral, and you can literally call in those dearly departed at any time and communicate with them and tell them what's going on, and they can communicate back with you in different ways. One family that I worked with, I felt the presence of the mother on my left shoulder, and I said to the woman, anytime you feel energy on that shoulder, that means your mother is there with you. I did a fun session with 6 sisters, grown women, and their mother had passed away when some of them were quite young. And when I do my sessions, my eyes are always closed. I don't open them for anything because I can see better with my third eye with my eyes closed. So wherever I was directed, that's the person that I provided information for. And we were in their hotel room, and 2 of them were on one bed sitting, and 2 of them were on another bed, and 2 of them were in chairs. And so I'm going around the room, and I say, okay, now, who's sitting at the foot of the bed here? And they say, nobody. I said, no, who's sitting at the foot of the bed? I said, nobody. I said, well, who's sitting on the side of the bed? They said, nobody. Well, what I found out later, I was told, I hadn't been told at that time, was that sitting at the foot of the bed was their mother. She was right in the middle of the whole thing, and that's the way that these women tended to be with their mother. They always felt that they included her and communicated with her, and she was there. So,
oh, wow. Amazing.
We have a very, most of us have a very limited view of what life and creation is really all about. And I think our eyes are being opened now to the truth that life is much more pervasive in different forms. And it's not, all we're doing, I remember reading a book many years ago, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was an alien book, and it was a guy who had been taken up to a ship many times. And near the end of it, the aliens, they go to this closet kind of thing, and they open it up, and there's another body in there that's been folded up. And I realized at that moment that these bodies, it was symbolic, that these bodies that we wear, they're only temporary suits that we're wearing, and we always exist in all forms, just as Einstein said, energy can neither be created nor destroyed, and we only change form. But our soul always exists, and we can communicate from one form to another, basically. So that's one of my articles. Another one where I talk about angels and demons and things like that. Fortunately, I think because of who I am and the prayers I take and all of that, I very, very seldom see any dark figures. But mostly I have seen when I've worked with people. The very first time, it was extraordinary. I was doing a group session. It was on Earth Day, and I was doing readings for individual people's, like for those 6 sisters. And so one woman I go to, and I see flying above her, all around her, were little angels. And it was just the most beautiful experience to see that and to feel that. And I've seen that many, many times. There are times when I remember a man, I saw this huge winged angel around him, and I said to him, you are protected. And he said, I've always felt that I'm protected. So you can feel those beings who are around you. I've also seen archangels over people, protecting them. I know that Archangel Michael is always with me, and I saw him one day over me. And they provide various signs that they're around. After I saw Archangel Michael, a woman was handling a deck of angel cards, and she dropped them. And I said, don't touch them. Now, slowly uncover which one is on the top. And she found that where the deck split was Archangel Michael, and he was communicating to me that way. But there are truly archangels and angels. I see them and experience them, and we can all work with them and talk to them. And they're not the same as people who have just passed over, but they're very highly energized, highly evolved consciousness. Because that's all
angels,
we are. We're just
angels were never human, right?
Jeff works with angels. Jeff.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Just. What are you saying,
Cool.
Jeff? They were never human?
No, I don't think angels were ever human.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Well,
I think they chose to stay spirit form their whole time. Maybe some point they, but because I mean, it's old souls.
Actually, we may actually be. We're not just one entity. Like I'm talking to you here, but there may be 50 or more aspects of ourselves, of our energy, in different forms and in different places throughout creation. And one
At
of
the
those
same time?
aspects...
I have a theory on that.
Yeah,
I have a theory on that, Shaman.
I like that.
All right.
What's your theory?
Listening to Bashar, who's kind of like Abraham Hicks.
Here we go.
And what he was saying is what we do is there's like many worlds of us, and all of a sudden, sometimes you make like such subtle changes you don't see them, but when you do make a real one, and you're going to get an echo that comes back to you that shows you the same circumstance, and it's how you react to it that time that moves you forward. And at some point, how sometimes you say, oh, I wonder what happened to so-and-so.
Right.
It's because they're not in your world anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you step into a bunch of different worlds.
Really? And they went elsewhere.
You notice you don't see them anymore?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because they're on a different vibration than you.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's great. That's perfect.
Yeah. So
now I have encountered dark beings or creatures that have attacked us. We can create thought forms. And one lady had a very bad pain in her side, and she asked me to work on her. And as soon as I looked at her, I saw these two eyes in her belly, and it was a being there that was all black and hiding.
Oh, wow.
And I intuitively knew.
Man.
And I intuitively knew that it was fear. She had created a thought form of a being of fear. And so what I did was, through healing energies and the light, I was able to remove it and send it up to God, and she felt quite different after that.
Yeah, because energy never stops moving. It's always that
creature went to God though. That creature it didn't sound God.
It was just like all of an energy creature.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Like energy.
Freaky.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where did it go?
It turned. She actually, because she's a seer also, she saw it come right out of her body and go straight on up. And it was transmuted into light and went to God, basically.
Nice.
So, there are those things. I once got contacted by a lady who felt that there was something strange. Her kids were always crying in the bedroom. And when I looked remotely, I could see that there was like a dragon creature that was there. There were several dark creatures in there. And that's why, and the kids were able to see him and sense him and feel him. But and what I was able to sense was that it was caused by, there were illicit drug and sex activities that were taking place there before they got there, and they created these kind of creatures also. Now I did not get involved in that because I wanted it to be done by somebody more local to her. And I actually didn't even want to get involved in it. So, but there are these kind of thought-form creatures. I mean, at one point, friends and I were meditating, and we were working at transforming the world, and you probably are aware of the Illuminati and the Cabal and the Koch brothers and all of those. Well, we were doing work to send light and love and to transmute their thought processes and to help move up things in a positive direction. Well, they would attack me, and they would send this creature that had very long snout and teeth, and it would always go for my left jugular, and I would bring in Jesus and the light and send it off of me. So, but those are not real. These are all just energies. They're just thought forms, and they're nothing to be afraid of. But, and those things are getting less and less and less. They're all being wiped out by the high vibrations.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we live in a vibrational world, and everything's vibrations, from trees to photosynthesis, everything, everything that grows, it's all vibration. So it makes sense that the energy, if you're blocking your energy at any point in your body, I mean, I think 100% that that's where cancer comes from, and unless you chose something before you became this person, you know what I mean? But I think it's all just trapped energy that isn't flowing.
You're exactly right. That's the truth. I find very often when I work with somebody, I will come across this pattern where there's a lot of stress and pain in their solar plexus, which is basically the area of their stomach, and that is their power center. So, and energy has to move through there to go to the higher chakras, to the higher points like the throat and the third eye and through the head, in order for a person to be healthy. What I find very often is that when I sense that, they either have or on their way to a medical issue being manifest in that central area of the stomach. One guy had a what is that called? In the stomach you get
pancreatic cancer.
A what?
Pancreatic cancer?
No, a hole in the stomach. One guy had pancreatitis, which can form into cancer. Another woman had H. pylori and things like that.
Yeah, that's all. You create your own reality by the energy you're putting out. I mean, it's basically, I don't even watch the news anymore. People tell me things going on. I'm like, really? What? Where's that? I don't even watch the news anymore.
It's depressing,
because of the vibrations it gives.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm. That's why we have Pete, our weatherman. We listen to him for weather. Yeah,
it works.
Yeah, we have Pete, the weatherman. That's where I get my weather.
Pete, by the way, is going to be doing our ski reports pretty soon.
Yeah.
No,
not yet.
Ski reports, brother.
Not yet.
All right, just saying. Okay.
What's it, the second day of fall?
Maybe. Farmer's Almanac says we're going to get snow like next month.
Where do you live, Shaman Rye? You live in New England area?
No, I used to visit up there quite a lot. I used to go to Western Massachusetts in the Tanglewood area, Lenox, and Pittsfield areas. I used to be up there a lot. And, no, I live now in Arkansas. I'm originally from New York, but now I live in Arkansas.
All right.
What goes on in Arkansas?
Not too much, thank goodness.
Yeah.
It's nice and quiet and peaceful.
It's the one state down there everyone just kind of doesn't go to.
They stay out of the news that you never watch.
Yeah.
They're never, they're peaceful people down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never knew anything about it other than maybe Little Rock and the Clintons, but came down here one weekend, and it's so beautiful in the Ozarks. It's an incredible place.
I love Bill
and it's
Clinton. He was all right.
And here in Eureka, we actually have, you see, this town was, people came here for healing, for the healing waters that were here, and they built, wooden buildings, and a number of them buildings burned down a number of times in the hotels too. So we have a lot of souls that are trapped here. So we have the Crescent Hotel, which is supposedly the most haunted hotel in all of America, and its sister hotel, the Basin Park, also. So we have plenty of ghosts and plenty of spiritual people in this area.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of history.
Good energy.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully, Eureka vacuum. I don't know if that's
Eureka energy.
Yeah, I like it.
Eureka, we found it.
I like Hillary Clinton, too.
Is that where the saying came from when you found it? You say, Eureka!
Eureka!
Yeah.
Because of the energy
that's
down there?
how the town.
Know what it is?
Well, I think it was originally in California when they said Eureka, we found it, they meant the gold. But then here they said Eureka because they found the health here also. Eureka, all the water and
that's cool.
Yeah,
streams.
so it kind of means
we had a
found
cousin.
it, like Eureka!
We had a cousin there. He was a little strange, but he used to yell, Eureka! What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, maybe
That's
maybe
funny.
the past life he was there.
He could have been. Wow. Ooh, that's pretty good. What's your website?
ShamanRai.com. That's ShamanRai.com.
Perfect. You just keep on plugging that.
Yeah.
Keep on plugging.
Yeah, get that.
Right here, that's right. That's right. He's more interesting than you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's all right. He's right up there.
But
He's got it going on.
And one of the things I did recently was I channeled the message from I think it was our Archangel Uriel, where the title that was given was Pain, the Gateway to Joy. And what the Archangel spoke about is that, there are a lot of, like you were talking about the physical pain and the blockages and all of that. Some people get stopped by the pain or the obstacle in front of them. And what the Archangel was talking about is that really, that is, it's like a hurdle. You're on one side of something that's blocking you, and it may seem like the end of the world, painful and all of that. But when you do the work to release to clear yourself, to release the negative memories, the hurts that were there, you get to the other side of that hurdle, and what's there but beautiful joy. And that's where we're meant to be, is we're meant to all be in a space of love, joy, and peace and harmony. And so right now what we're all being called on to do, and people are waking up to this, is to do the work to release these memories that are not for our highest good, that are not allowing the energies to flow and not allowing us to be in that space of love for others.
So what is Earth? A test? Is it a test?
Well, actually, Earth was created, so there are many parts to the story about Earth. But Earth was actually created to be one of the most beautiful planets in our universe. And many things happened. We actually used to have a much higher consciousness than we have now. Right now we live in 3D. We're heading towards 4D, and very soon we'll be in 5D, which is all a higher consciousness, a higher vibration. At one time, we were actually all the way up to 12D, but there was the fall that came because of invasions from beings from other universes, actually. And they came in and they created fighting and all of that took place. So part of the race, the way the human race was created, was that beings from other planets, from 5 other planets, came together and they cohabitated and they had children, but these were all having genes with tremendous skills in them, and it was intentionally done by God, by Father, and so beings came from various places, including planet Sirius, which is actually where I'm from originally, and other planets like Andromeda and so forth. So we're actually a mixed race, you can call it, everybody who was here originally, And then there were invaders from other planets.
We've had a lot of people on our show that are saying that.
Saying what? A good day
we're
for
a
the
mixed
race.
We're a mixed race with aliens. We've had 4 people now that have come on and said that.
Actually, you're right. Like more and more frequently too.
Yeah,
it's up with that. It's true.
Yeah, it's like you're like the 4th person that has said that now.
Yeah, so it could be amongst us. Well,
no, they are us.
They're us taking over us.
Your alien. Your mama's an alien.
Your mama's an alien. Yeah, it used to be like a schoolyard.
Yeah, but I mean, you're like the 4th person that has come on and said that.
That is true.
Now that you think about it, I don't know. We wouldn't be hearing this a lot if it wasn't.
I knew when I was a kid, I used to be fascinated with the dog star. And I'd go out with Boy Scouts, and I'd be looking up at the dog star, finding where it was. I always loved it. And then I found out when I was an adult that was planet Sirius. And I knew that was where I just had this harmony with it, and I knew that's where I had always come from. And, my partner, she knows she's come from the Pleiades, and I've met people from Andromeda, and lots of places. And but this was to create a beautiful, perfect race of human beings with high ability, with all of the abilities that Jesus had and more, and that's what we're awakening to. That's what's so exciting about this period of time. Because, my abilities, they awoke. I've had them for many lifetimes. I've developed them over many lifetimes and used them, and then they awakened within this lifetime because I was told to use them to help other people. Well, everybody is in a different stage of their development in opening themselves up to those skills. I spoke to one lady today who she's able to see and she's able to hear, but not everything else has opened up for her yet. And that's why I say the more clearing we do, that to clear out those negative thoughts and experiences, that aids us in opening up to the truth of who we are with all of these godlike abilities, and not the people who have been pushed down and humiliated and made to feel like they're nothing, which is part of a plan not of God but of beings that have a different agenda, who's lost basically almost all of their power now.
That's a very interesting view. So I wish we could take, of course, we're recording on podcast, so we can't take phone calls because I know we'd get a bunch. We'd get a ton of phone calls. So what's in your future work? So what's going on? Do you have any big future plans?
Well, I basically go where I'm guided. What has opened up for me is being on different radio shows, and in fact, I was on one this afternoon, and I was doing readings for people, and the host of that show said to me, why don't we plan to bring you back every month? And I said, you got it, no problem. So I pretty much just flow with wherever I'm supposed to go, and I know that my purpose in life is to help people to release and to get to that place of love and joy, because that's what I was told to do, and that's why these abilities were opened up. So I don't make any long-term plans. It's like, okay, what are you telling me to do now? That kind of thing. So I do look forward to really a joyous time in this country and on this planet within a relatively short period of time, because I really do believe I know that there are spaceships out there that came specifically to protect us and help us overcome the people who were controlling us, and I've spoken to them, and so I really do feel that we are the generation who came at this time to participate in setting ourselves and others free from those who would control us. So I look forward to a very glorious future, whatever it might be.
Did you have to go to shaman school or anything?
No, I didn't. No, I'll tell you the story about it.
Okay.
My abilities started. I originally experienced my grandmother when she passed when I was 6 years old, and I've had visions and dreams and all kinds of things over the years. My guru is Paramahansa Yogananda, who left the body in 1952, but I was called to him to be one of his devotees, and I studied his meditation, which is Kriya Yoga, which basically helps clear your karma for thousands and thousands of years, and I did that for probably 25 years. But then I still had more to clear, and one day I met somebody who I knew from a past lifetime, and she helped me clear the last remnants of things that were blocking me, and that's when my abilities really popped open. I had already studied Reiki and all those things, but all of a sudden my healing abilities were really popping open, my vision really popped open. What happened, the reason I'm called a shaman was that was the name that was given to me. It was given to me through other people. A woman drove up to where I was standing, and her voice spoke to her. Her guide spoke to her. She had said to them, "Who's that man standing there?" And they said, "Shaman." And then another person who's a client, she said, "You're no longer Ira, you're Rai." She had done some work saying which ones felt right to her. And what I realized is the work that I do in terms of transmuting energies, doing soul retrievals, bringing light into people, healing them, what I found out afterwards, those are all of the abilities that a shaman has, and they normally have to be trained in. I didn't have to be trained in them. Mother Mary came to me and showed me how to do a soul retrieval. They sent a boy to me who was not able to walk, and they told me to put my hand over him and run energy into him, and 2 days later he was walking. And so these were just opening of the abilities that I had from past lives when I had been a high priest and other types of lifetimes. So all of that connected.
Amazing. That is awesome.
So do you follow any religion, like Catholic or?
I used to be, when I was a young boy, I used to go to temple. I was Jewish. And but no, I'm purely spiritual. Even though my guru is Indian, it's not a religious. We believe that we all come from the same source, and religions are they're philosophies, but it's just we're just spirit, and that's all there is. Yeah. So I don't follow any religious practices or philosophy.
Kabbalah is pretty cool.
Yeah. And it has a lot of, if you go into all of the different religions and really look at the core information they're providing, the core messages are all the same.
Oh,
basically. Yeah. We're love, love each other like yourselves. All of those are the same kind of thing. So none of them say war against anybody.
I mean, think it and it will be done, all of that stuff, It's basically, they're telling you, they're giving you all the secrets that, your mind is going to, be who you are. It's going to, control everything else. They're already giving you secrets, all of the religious books. But, the problem with religion is you're kind of going through like a middle person to get the spirit when you can do it yourself. If that's what people need, it's fine. If that's what it needs, if they need to be spiritual, that's fine.
You can have your own relationship with God without all the
universe
rules or the
it's the source,
Right, that's true.
So basically, religions, they get paid to be the middleman, and you don't really need that.
10% of your pay.
But then again,
Bible.
If that's what somebody needs to, learn the messages they need to learn, that's fine.
Well, some people feel like they need to belong to a group like that to worship and pray, and I understand that. I can respect that.
Yeah.
It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good in the hood.
It's all good. We have to ask Shaman a question we ask all of our guests, all of our knowledgeable guests.
Our last guest snuck away without it.
Yeah, being from Salem, Massachusetts, where they manufacture and sell the they used to until they closed it, but the Ouija board. What do you think about Ouija boards?
Well, let me tell you, in our town we had an illusionist, and she called herself a psychic. And part of the illusionist act was that he brought the Ouija board out and he placed it on somebody, and he and she were connecting with spirit, and so something would jump, it would jump off the board, and stuff like that. I think, I think any tool you use depends on the consciousness of the person, and the vibration that they're at and the protection that they call in. You can call in low vibration beings from the other side, and they can, and you can open a door to doing that. You don't really want to do that. You want to be at the highest point. That's why before you guys are great guys, but I'll tell you honestly, before I came on the show, I said my prayers and I called in everybody to protect me from you. So,
Serious? Why? Wow,
so,
he knows us well. Got a little coffee bodyguard doing it. Yeah. It's been all right, though. We've been well behaved tonight.
Talking about our spirits that we carry around with us.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah, we do run into some not so nice spirits, but I think we've done okay.
Not so much anymore as we get,
But go back to the
more positive and...
So, Shaman, you're suggesting that the Ouija board would invite lower vibration spirits, meaning more negative spirits?
Again, we're all at different levels of consciousness, and so there are beings who have crossed over to the other side, which may be at a different, lower vibration. Sometimes because they were involved with alcohol, they're attached to that, that kind of thing. So what you want to make sure to do, the Ouija board is like a pendulum or anything else, or using me as a tool. You need to be at a higher consciousness, because if you're at a low consciousness, you're going to attract that kind of being to you. If you're in a state of fear, you're going to attract a lower vibration being. If you're in a state of love, and you've said your prayers and you've connected with Source, you can connect with a higher. So I don't have any problem with a Ouija board per se. It's more that people need to know how to use it and bring in for their highest good.
You're opening a door that you throw it away the key.
Yeah, and that's true. It's just, and like he said, it's another tool.
Yeah.
But he put an interesting twist where he thinks the lower vibration spirit they may try to communicate.
Well,
which
think about it.
He's exactly right in some of our past cases where the Ouija board was involved. That's why we were asking. We've had a couple close to home where on this good old ley line in downtown Salem, kind of where Parker Brothers was, and that's the same thing. Just very low, negative, mischievous ghost energy, poltergeist type things or something like that. Nothing demonic or anything, I don't think, but just more pain in the ass, or like you and I would be, Jeff, if we were spirits, a ghost, pretty much. So, Shaman Ray, thank you so much. Folks, check him out. That's on shamanray.com, ShamanRai.com. And you've been a great guest on Everything Paranormal. We thank you so much for calling in tonight.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, fellas. You have a great night now. Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right. Good night. Have a great night. Oh, he was good, Jeff.
Yeah. Wow, we went to two different... we had a scientist.
The whole round. We had a scientist to start.
We had a shaman to end it.
Yeah, who didn't believe in a lot of stuff.
We should have put them on together.
No, I was thinking that when they were talking, actually, when
you got
was talking, because
spiritual guy,
different realms of
the scientist guy,
right? And
but wouldn't even have to talk.
Although John Fishwick, he's more scientific, but he absolutely he was open-minded.
Yeah,
and he still looked at things kind of like I do in an investigation, where we kind of, I think, we try to. Although science doesn't really recognize these things, we do, but we look for things that will just confirm things with, like, for instance, the our K2 EMF meter goes up, spikes up, boom. Same time we get audio on the recorder, and or like voice on Ghost Box, all at the same time. Things like that. That makes you wonder, and that makes us
unexplained things,
unexplained stuff.
Yeah. So, everybody's had something in their life happen that they can't explain.
So these are the last couple of minutes where we plug ourselves.
Yeah.
All right.
Ed, plug away.
All right. I am doing my the real live ghost hunting tours in downtown Salem, Mass. Check me out at witchcityghosts.com or just send me an email at marklegere1gmail.com, and that's Legere. Both of our names spelled the same way. I'm actually we're going to start simulcasting the show on Ustream probably next week. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Right?
It's going to be live Tuesday nights.
You're going to get to see our faces.
Yeah, you get us. Yeah, luckily our faces for radio.
Yeah.
And then of course we air
behind the scenes look.
Yep, and then we air every Saturday night from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on dtmwickedradio.com. You can find us the day after the show Saturday on iHeart, Bleaker, Spreaker, Blog Talk, and all kinds of stuff. So things are getting better. And Jeff, what are you doing?
I have my website, angelsguide.org.
Yeah.
And I'm also doing a show Thursday
nights. It's a Ustream.
Yeah, it's a Ustream.
So how do you find it? How do you find the show?
I'm going to post it on my Facebook page. I should probably start putting it on my website, too. I'm going to.
Yep. All right.
I'm going to start posting it on my website. I guess.
All right, so that's angelsguide.org or Jeff Legere, Legere on Facebook. Mark Legere, Legere on Facebook. You guys have a great weekend. We'll see you next week on Everything Paranormal.
Peace out.
You mean that's it?
Time for a cold one. See you next week. No.
They can't hear her
You mean that's it?
saying the time and stuff?
No.
How come we can?
Goodbye. Hasta la vista, baby. Well, at least I know how to get back into it. We'll laugh and say, oh, it's Skype again. You know, we'll kill time and talk, even if we're doing live fucking video. And just get back into it. Dial them up and make a joke of it and get back on. Or we can just do it on the phone. Where'd everybody go? Oh. Ken's knocked out. Ken, you want to go to bed, bud? No. You get a call from the nurse. I get a cold or something. Okay. All right. I'm going to lock the doors.